Okay, we're recording.
Okay, so it is March 5th, 2020, 12:06 p.m. We do have a quorum, so I call the meeting to order. So if you could please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state,
under God, one and indivisible.
I was like, so our first item on the agenda is the minutes from our January 16th meeting. Any comments, questions? I just have one request, and it's that you add an S to my last name, Oliveras. All throughout, it's Olivera. It's the first time ever. It's okay.
Sorry.
I thought it was one, but no, it was consistent. So.
I will repeat that.
It's okay. Any questions about the minutes? Okay, if we don't have any questions or any other changes, do we have a motion to approve the minutes for January 16th meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second? I do. Dr. Gray, second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Second item is the request of approval to file the professional development calendar waiver for 2020-2021.
So this is all going to go together, even though it is separate. So first we'll talk about the waiver, and then we'll talk about the 2021 school year calendar. And so, Jamie, if you want to explain the waiver.
So the waiver is required by the state if we want to take days off where staff will attend for professional development, but the students will not be in session. The waiver basically allows us to count that day towards the 180 days that the students are required to attend because the staff are getting professional development during that time. So the actual, it used to be you filed for either a 3, a 4, or a 5-day waiver, but now when they went to the minutes for most everybody else, they just made it a flat 100 minutes. And so it works out to where it's basically 5 days and you can utilize 3, 4, 5, however many you want, up to 5. And so in the past, we've always used 3. And so when we file for the waiver, it gives us the ability to use basically as many of those minutes as we want. And so when you see the calendar, you'll see that I think this year the idea is to use all 5 since they're basically granted to us, which would push the students' attendance days down to 175 days because the other 5 days to meet the 180 would be staff development days.
And just to kind of explain that, we met and talked about what the 3 days are currently being utilized as, because the days have to be highly qualified professional development. It can't just be a teacher work day where the teachers just work on their lesson plans or go to their classrooms and take care of their personal agendas. And so one thing that we are bringing into next school year is the Leader in Me. All the staff participate in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the last PD that we had this last month. And so the transition would be to transition into a Leader in Me campus, which will require additional training. And so we already have committed so many days to supporting our model with project-based learning and problem-based learning. And now that we have the blended learning grants, there's also additional training tied to that. And so when we talked, and I talked with Peterson about a lot of those times we've had to hire subs and because of the specific requirements within the training. So these additional days would allow us to have our blended learning training, our project-based learning, problem-based learning, and some of our Leader in Me training all built into specific days, so we don't have to hire subs.
And this is, it used to be a 3 to 5 year, like you applied and you said we want to do this for the next 3 years. Now they do it, it's annual.
Any questions about the waivers?
So do we have a motion to approve the waiver for 2020-21? Do we have a second?
Second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Request of approval for 2020 2021 district calendar.
So hopefully you've had a chance to look at the 2021 school year calendar. When we developed the calendars, we pulled the university calendar and made comparisons as we're developing our calendar. We also pulled the 3 largest school districts if they're available at this time. And make comparisons because we do have children that go to, maybe the traditional ISD in their district, and then the parents, the elementary child may go to our school. And so we try to compare those as closely as we can. I will tell you, because of the new requirements and because districts now can do districts of innovation, which can allow them to do to have a different calendar, it is very difficult today to really align calendars with anyone. If you pull up a couple years ago, we could pull up the calendars and we might be 1 or 2 days off of other school districts. Now it is pretty much impossible to align with school districts. And so we do the very best we can to align. When I say align, looking at holidays like spring break, Christmas break, because it impacts our attendance. When we do have days that maybe a large school district in our area is closed and we're open, that usually we kept shown that impacts our attendance. So looking at this calendar, you can see that we do have the first day of school this year. One little different thing is we're going to start on that Tuesday instead of a Monday. Feedback from teachers and parents and students is that first week back, it's much easier if we could look at a 4-day week instead of a 5-day week. And then we also talked about on that Monday is hosting maybe a back to school bash where students could come, open house session, drop off school supplies and things like that. So that is one change. Then we also have built in the additional 2 PD days. And we looked at looking at specific dates that we selected. We looked at dates where we would have specific data that we needed. Peterson also looked at dates that she's required to have meetings with the MIZ trainings. So these dates were selected, aligned with the PD needs across the district. We do have some early release days. The early release days that we have are either right before a holiday. We have found by tracking our data, that's best case scenario. If that's the day that right before Thanksgiving break, there's parties and everything else. Most teachers are taking or parents are taking their kids out anyway. And then we also looked at the other days are built around our data days. So that's right when we get our benchmark data in, and that's the days that we look and we analyze data with our teachers. And pretty much, I think everything else is very similar. Your spring breaks, your Christmas breaks, I think that's kind of, it all pretty much aligns. We built our bad weather days towards the end. So right now, if everything works out and we don't have to use our bad weather days, the last day of school is going to be on a Thursday, and then, which is right before Memorial Day weekend. And then the teacher holiday will be, a teacher work day would be on that 28th, and we have graduation on the 29th. That will be in the perfect calendar year. So students won't have to come back after Memorial Day if everything works out. Teachers won't have to come back unless they have additional PD work day to attend. But overall, I think it's a pretty strong calendar. Questions, comments as you reviewed it? So once this is approved by the board, we then will post it on our website, send that out to parents so they can begin planning and turn it into Region 7 and Tennessee.
I haven't seen our calendar either, but it's the spring break. Does it match spring break?
They don't have
They
spring
haven't,
posted
right?
yet.
They don't have
It's
it.
only
Okay,
posted in
that's
the
what I
fall,
thought.
which is really
Okay.
odd. Normally they post it all.
Well, there was a lot of conversations about the calendar and.
You guys matched with TISD.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, TISD is not out, but we aligned it with the same week that we did last year. So it should align with university because the university goes so many weeks. So it should align with the university when they do.
Yeah.
And ours has always aligned with TSC, but TSC, you're right, has not produced their. Oh, did you find it now?
Remember when we? Then they posted it after I.
Yeah,
messaged
so you might
because it
want to
wasn't
see,
done
and
yet.
just kind of see when their spring break is.
Okay, do we have any questions? Do we have any questions or comments for the calendar? I thought it was great. told my mother, I think this one is gonna be out for Christmas. She starts planning like a year and a half ahead. She doesn't have anything to do. I said, Mom, I don't know that. So any questions?
So Tyler does have theirs posted.
Yes.
Let's
Break
see.
is, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
same
the-
week.
I move we approve the calendar.
Yes. So do we have a motion?
Just see.
Okay, Eve has a motion. Do we have a second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The second was consultant.
Yes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to approve our calendar for our board meetings. And it's still the same.
Put that in the wrong order.
Structure.
Yeah, we follow the same structure. We skipped the first Thursday in September, I think because of the Labor Day holiday and something. And then January is because we just come back, and then also that's our audit. So we're usually give them that extra week, which is always good, and it still falls before the Peens. And then the May date is the one that's typically hard because of y'all's semester ending at the university. And, but it's hard to push it that next week because then a lot of people gone.
Right.
So,
Did you take into account that, the research, the
conference?
The conference, I'm just gonna double check.
oh, that's why we bumped it in September.
Okay,
It's the
so that's the
first,
week,
I believe
so
so.
September 10th is the week later.
I believe so,
All right.
yes. And that's why we bumped it. So I
Right.
couldn't remember what. I think the conference is like
The third.
All right, that makes
Maybe.
sense. That makes sense.
And if you look at July, we bumped it because of July the 4th too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right, September 3rd.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Any questions? And this will be posted on our website for parents too, in the event they want to attend board meetings or have questions.
Do we have a motion to approve the board meeting dates?
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Approval of budget amendment for 1920?
Yes, for 1920. This first amendment is for the general fund. We are decreasing our fund balance by $200,000 so that we can use those funds that we had previously planned to use on some maintenance projects and the vans. Since the vans and the other projects hit this fiscal year, that's why we did it later in the year, since all those expenses moved into this year instead of last year. Because last year we had previously planned to use the $200,000 from our fund balance and we didn't end up using it. So that's on the revenue. And then on the expenditures, we're just moving around some salaries that are already budgeted, and they just weren't budgeted in the correct function of what their job duties are. So that's why we moved those around. And then we expense the $200,000 in the student transportation for the vans and then maintenance for the maintenance projects.
So if you recall the last year's budget, we were anticipating taking from the fund balance to cover, we were going to look at either having to cover the vans or to cover the additional costs that we use to pay off Longview. That the additional cost to pay off Longview, we paid. So Longview is paid in full, but the vans did not because of the GM shutdown. They did not get delivered, so therefore we didn't process payment until for this school year.
And all 3 vans have been received.
Yeah.
And 2 are in service and 1 we're just waiting on all paperwork to finalize.
And then these amendments are for just our non-governmental funds. We increased some of the funds on our grants. We didn't budget all of the funds on some of the grants that we have, so we needed to use some of the funds for salaries. So we're pulling in some of those into the budget, and then also we're just moving some expenditures around here to show the better function of what they need to be in on these. And that's what our budget will look like after they're approved.
Questions?
My question is why we didn't have this funding, but this is the year we're in. And we've been looking at a calendar 2020, 21. I'm thinking, well, I'm looking at 19.
And we will have additional amendments as the year continues to go
Yes,
on. And
and
as
as
we
we
start
add the
spending,
regular, yes.
yeah, the
more spending we do throughout the year, we will have more amendments. We have to have all amendments in place before August 31st, so we have to be planning ahead.
Any real questions? If we don't have any questions, do we have a motion to approve the amendments, please?
I'll make the motion.
And a second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Request approval superintendent appointment to Region 7 Advisory Committee.
So this is approval that we have to seek every year. We are part of Region 7, and so with that, we do have, we utilize their services in specific areas. So for example, we utilize some of their PD services. With that, we have to sign an agreement when we do purchase the different services that we utilize. And so Region 7 wants to deal with the superintendent, and they want the signature of the superintendent to support that the district is agreeing to participate in. I think they call them, what do they call the actual co-ops? So anyway, so that's kind of where the whole process is, that they want one person to be able to sign off saying the district is going to pay this amount and participate in this co-op.
I think it also is just the fact that when they do, that all the superintendents come together and just make decisions, that then the information goes to the state. And so basically they're serving as the voice of our.
Right. We have a motion to approve this appointment. Make a motion. Yeah, do we have a second? Second with the second.
Take your turns.
Right, yes. There's only 4 of us. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So the rest of the items are informational items. So superintendent.
Okay, the first one's financial updates. Chestnut, do you have any additional information there?
This is what our budget looks like. We just approved y'all just approved an amendment to fix some of the function that's upside down, but we received 3.2 million and we've expensed 3.5 million in expenses for the year. And then I will update this after going forward after this one to reflect the correct rollover balance. And then these are all of our non-governmental funds. Any questions?
Right, so the next item is going to be your district and campus enrollment and attendance. And so board members had a chance to review the attendance for each campus. And as you can see, our total attendance right now is 820. Tyler has 319, Longview 265, and Palestine 236. And so you can see that our district attendance rate is 96% overall. And so that's pretty good considering we have had a lot of teacher students out sick. And, you know, we're just trying to do the very best we can to continue to educate our students on in the event that they are sick, that they need to stay home, as well as our staff. So I think it just is what it is given the situation this year with the viruses that are going around. I think everybody's kind of on a high alert. And so if a kid does have any type of symptoms, they're staying home, which is good. We encourage that.
We just sent out a big newsletter that had a lot of information about the flu and coronavirus, the stuff that TEA has sent us to send out to parents. So,
yeah. So anyway, just continuing to support attendance, and we do have procedures in place in the event that a student is out, and that we have attendance committees on each campus. So in the event a student misses so many days, the attendance committee sits down and meets with the student and the parent. There's documents that we have to review with the parent and the student because there are requirements that they have to be attend 90% of the time in order to get the credit. Or to be promoted, depending on which grade they're in. Any questions regarding the enrollment? All right. So the next item, as we were talking about, our minds right now are that we do live in 1920 and in 2021, because right now we have all kicked off the process for our admissions and enrollment. So looking at that, we have a very specific timeline from when commitment requests are due to commitment letters. So you can see that we get back from break, commitment letters go out. So that's every child that is currently enrolled in the district. The parents will have to commit to say whether they're going to return or not. We then look at those numbers and then began to look at our new applications and host a lottery. The lottery, I think the date is April the 3rd that we'll have the lottery. And so then we'll be communicating with those parents and monitoring that. And so as you can see throughout the entire, we're thinking about from now to the very first day of school, from everything to our training our new teachers, to our new students orientation camp, to the enrollment days that we have across the district to support new students. So it's a very busy time of the year, and so it's very important that we have specific dates in place to support. This calendar is, I think it's posted on the website. Teachers are have it. So when parents ask, when is the lottery, or when are we going to find out, or when is the back to school event and things like that, we try to plan those things ahead of time, simply because we know that people schedule vacations ahead of time, because it's oftentimes a lot cheaper if you plan those things ahead of time, and so it just makes it easier for our community of parents. Any questions regarding the timeline?
I know you mentioned last year just the follow-up to just during that process to parents that are on the waiting list.
Yes.
Are they, like, when their application comes in, are they notified that your application has been received, or do you know what that follow-up is like?
And Ms. Wright, I do remember you bringing that up, because one thing that we've learned is, so I submit my application, and the process is I don't hear from anyone unless I get accepted in the lottery, because what happens is you then just go on the wait list. And so we had parents express that I applied, but I've never heard anything.
We already have addressed that with the
Yeah.
admins for this coming year after the lottery, that all parents will there'll be basically 2 emails that go out. Either you're on you were accepted through the lottery and you have until May 1st to let us know, or you were not on the lottery and here's your replacement. Yes, that's the conversation. Well, tomorrow we actually have a full-on training session with them, but that has already been communicated, just like kind of in the shadows. But since the lottery hasn't happened yet, basically it's just we're accepting the applications and they're going on the list until the lottery happens.
And that's important, because we did get parents say, well, you just don't communicate effectively. Well, I see what you're saying now, because you submitted this application and you've heard your neighbors pick that in, and you've never received anything. They're getting all this information about your school. I'm not getting anything. We submitted the very same day. So it's the process of the lottery is very hard for people to kind of wrap their minds around it, of how specific it has to be. And we notify you of so many days. If we don't hear from you after we make several calls to even try to do our very best to get in contact with you, you're now at the bottom and you're now next in line, and you have so many days to respond. So we have to time and date stamp everything that we receive. I will tell you that it's becoming such a big ordeal that the state just communicated that they will actually create a unified application process across the state for charter schools. So right now, as a charter school, you're able to create your own application process, meaning you create your own form. The commissioner now is saying, no, we want to create that form. We want everyone using the same form, and we're also going to track your wait list numbers and how kind of the whole process. So we're not only going to have to track it in-house. After this year, starting in the fall of next year of 20, we're going to have to track it and send it off to the state. So I don't know if it's going to be monthly, weekly, we don't really know, because they do want to make sure that you're doing right. Because just because you know somebody, or someone's a big donor, or a friend of a friend, you can't just automatically accept them and then not accept another child. Or we have situations where charter schools are trying to gather more information than they should. So I'm trying to find out, were you a problem child at your last school? Or were you academically, are you behind? Because if you're behind, oh, let me see where I can put you in the process. And so schools are being cited. In fact, we read an article not too long ago where a superintendent lost their certification, or a principal lost their certification in the superintendent because of they found that they were only accepting students that met specific academic requirements. So you cannot do that.
By the way, the calendar has been posted now, and our spring break matches.
Oh,
Our spring
good.
break
Good.
matches.
Yay.
It's funny how they all just posted like magically.
I know, I've looked for it. I've looked for it many
I know, it's
times.
just like they just show up. and-
Hey, but look, we must have read all their minds.
I know.
So we did good. So any questions about the admission timelines or lottery process? All right, as far as campus updates, as we said, right now, we are living in 1920 and 2021. So it seems like our conversations, we have to clarify every time we're having a conversation, from everything of recruitment to teacher and student retention to plans for next school year. To talk a little bit about updates, I know that in a couple of board meetings, we talked about expansion in Longview. So Longview will not be expanding for the 2021 school year. So I've worked with Dr. Hickey and the university to discuss that. I think that with the merger and everything else that's going on right now at the university, that the timing is just not, it's not a good time. And so we will be looking to, my understanding is that the conversations will continue in the fall. So we will be continuing to look at that, because the wait list in Longview is continuing to grow. Across the district, it's continuing to grow. And so I wanted to give you an update. I did have a chance to talk to Ms. Wright in person to kind of share with her about the situation. And so we are very optimistic that we will have the opportunity to expand. It's just trying to make sure it's the right time to work with the university. So the numbers are definitely there. Longview hosted a event, and I'm just talking specifically to Longview right now, but all three campuses, the applications are increasing, the interest levels increasing, parents are wanting to find out ways that they can enroll their children. So very positive across all three communities. Another update across, we talked about, was looking at a food service program. And so we have spent countless hours trying to look at how can we offer a hot lunch and hot breakfast across all three campuses. After looking at several different options, working with companies, working with TDA, the recommendation is that we start small. And so we are projected to offer a hot meal here in Tyler next year, a hot breakfast and a hot lunch. And so it will be a scratch kitchen offering. So we will have a director of food service that will also be the cook / with other assistants supporting that. All the food will meet the national food guidelines. And so after we have kind of get our feet wet with that process for year one, then we are going to look at two options: either pre-prepping the food here in Tyler and shipping it to Longview and Palestine, freezer to warmer. Are there other vendors that we are exploring to utilize a food prep? And then we've also talked about, in the event that Longview does get the opportunity to expand, we could easily look at maybe putting a kitchen in there. And so that would allow us to do a scratch kitchen in Longview. And we would already have a year under of experience with the scratch kitchen here in Tyler. So we're very excited about the opportunity. Numbers are growing, and we feel like we do need to provide opportunity to feed our students throughout the day. So special thanks to JAMA for working through the 86-page application, and then finding out that we don't even have to
hours
submit
and
it.
hours of phone calls.
Yeah. So that has been that we didn't get to submit it.
Yeah.
Oh, like
We changed our mind because
Because
it was advised against.
Yeah, they advised us against it because it was too much for them to process. They could not understand that we had this is no kidding. They could not understand that we had 3 schools in 3 counties and how we were going to process all of that. It blew their minds. Yeah.
And they've never, the people involved at both the state and the region have never started a program from scratch. So they didn't even really know the ramifications of how to do that.
How to start a kitchen in a school or a lunch program in a school.
You guys are paving the way for everyone else.
Yes.
It blew our minds that, I mean, that they actually said we were the talk of the office, because that none of them had ever done it. And so they were just like trying to figure out, and I will tell you, they probably had a huge celebration when we decided to not submit the application, because they were sweating it. I mean,
Yeah,
it
they
was a
were.
great-
gosh, 800 kids.
I mean, they just could not understand how how are you gonna even build a budget all of a sudden? How are you gonna know who's gonna eat? I mean, we can talk for days about it.
We kind of laughed because we said your whole agency is to get kids to get a lunch because they need lunch. And we're telling you we want to give our kids lunch, and you're telling us it's like
Too much.
impossible. It's impossible.
That was probably one of the biggest eye openers I've ever had when it comes to working with the state on something that we know that's a need and them wanting to help us and not having the skill set to do it. So it was very frustrating. But so we decided we're going to do it because it was kind of like, we don't even know if you should do it at all. And so we said, no, we're going to start it and we're going to process through it. So anyway, campus updates. Can you think of anything else, directors, specific things? I mean, I know we got a lot going on. STAR testing coming up before we meet again. A lot of interventions in place to support students. Trying to think of
Playground.
The
fencing.
Oh yeah, so about facilities and everything. So we did get the fencing here in Tyler, and it's scheduled. I think the fencing in Longview was supposed to start this week because of the rain. I think it's going to start next week. So they will actually have a fence. If you get a chance to see the fence here in Tyler, they'll have a fence very similar to the one. In fact, it's the same fence. And then we also are going to paint all the inside of the classrooms over the summer. We've already painted several areas across the campus as much as we could without disturbing the instructional environment. The playground is going to be installed in Longview because we met that campaign goal, and I'm thinking within the next couple of weeks. In fact, we got an email this week to say that it has been processed and finalized, and it's in the kind of the process procedure of being built, shipped, and installed. Tyler's, I think, is a little over $2,000 away from meeting their campaign goal of getting their playground. PTO did agree to match dollar per dollar that's raised in the next 9 days, so we're very excited about that opportunity and feel like we're going to meet that goal. So we've just got a lot going on right now, from everything to looking at recruiting teachers, creating the 2021 class district calendar and schedules and things like that to get a jump start on the school year. I will tell you that we are looking at a couple of things to try to make things simpler. One proposal that we looked at today was looking at, instead of having parents purchase school supplies, is just do a blanket supply fee. And so we're going to send out a survey.
The girls won't because they love shopping for supplies.
So we're going to be sending a survey. So I want to tell you as a board, we're going to first that we're going to be sending a survey out to parents to say, would you prefer a $35 fee versus
$35?
Yeah, so we're actually think it's pretty cheap.
Oh my gosh.
So
Yes. I'll donate for a few more.
yeah, so we're kind of working through it. I'm trying to see, could it be $35? But basically, there's two things that one was the technology fee, the insurance that parents did not really like. So next year we will not have a technology insurance fee. It will just be, we're looking at having a technology fee, and that money goes into the district. So basically we're looking at a tech fee of $25 and a supply fee of $35. So the only thing that the parent would have,
For the year?
yeah,
You think that's enough?
I don't know. I'm kind of, now that we process it, I know that the school supply list, I mean, I know what I've had to pay as a parent when I go and buy school supplies. This will cover everything but their backpack and lunch kit. So the parent would have to buy the backpack and lunch kit.
Part of our thinking was we can buy both,
Both,
where they all
yes,
can't buy
yes,
both.
yeah.
So we would get things cheaper if we're buying hundreds and hundreds of something.
Yeah. And so then the tech fee would be $25. Now we have changed our whole process for devices. I believe it's K through second grade is going to be the devices will be in the classroom. So they'll be in a cart.
Oh,
Third through eighth grade, the devices will be distributed to each individual student, and 9th through 12th grade, they can bring their own device. And so that we're trying to look at a variety of different ways to support each individual grade's needs, because the honest truth is a high school student wants a laptop, they don't want a Chromebook, and so looking at options for them, maybe, so we understand that could be a cost too for parents, especially if you have an older child and bringing a laptop. So, anyway, so what's your perspective on versus school supplies versus you pay one-time fee? You love it? So anyway, we're gonna get parent feedback on that because we don't want to upset anyone. We want to hear what the parents have to say, but I think it just all makes more sense. We can buy in bulk, like we said.
And the $25 tech fee as well. I mean, you're gonna have kids that break all the time, and so their 25 is gonna be well towards that. But then you're gonna have kids that don't have any breaks, so some of that money could technically be used for, basically supplies in general. It basically
And the
So,
good news
but
is,
if you collect it as a technology fee, does it have to be used for technology?
that's something
That's
we'll
what I'm
need to-
saying.
yeah, but it will probably have to be, but we'll be fine there
Right.
as much as we spend on
Right, yeah.
technology. Now,
But you could take money that you had allotted towards technology and then re-allot it towards something else. You know what I mean? 'Cause
Right,
you're already
right.
setting up a
It's just
technology
not
budget.
collected from the parents.
So if you get the money for the tech fee, then it turns out that you need $1,000 extra for the
Right.
supplies. You just take $1,000 from your tech budget and move it over here. So you would just do an amendment to adjust the budget.
so, and one thing we talked about was on the supply fee, because we have the Skyward processing system, so parents could pay if they had 4 children and that's a lot of money for them to process all in the month of August. It will allow them to pay it out. So I might could just pay for one child in August, one child in September, one child in November, versus trying to have to pay it all up front. It's a tough time in August for parents to have to process all the needs that are associated with school supplies and clothes, especially when you have more than one child. So I would like to know, in your opinion, is $35 fair, or is you think $40 is fair? I mean,
How much you spend? Like, you spend a lot more than that.
Previous school we were at had it in place, and I always took advantage of it. I want to say that it was 35 or 40.
Okay.
And that's been a few years ago too. So
so we might get away with 40, because I mean, we looked at the overall number, and trying to look at, okay, I think we probably need to go back and try to create a budget off of how many things and looking at the cost associated.
So how much for the pre-packet? The pre-packet were a lot more than $35, right?
I think it depends on the grade.
Right.
For EPI, we use that for ours,
Yes.
and so, the lowest was $40, so older
Yes.
students, it was a lot lower. For the younger students, they utilize a little bit more supplies, and so it went up to about 80.
Yeah. That's 35. By the way, I love the pre-package too, but the girls were not very happy about it. You're not shopping, like, nope, I already ordered it. So now when I tell them, we don't even have to do that, they're not.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, it doesn't keep the parents from taking their kids and buying their own
Right.
pencils if they want them.
Right.
I mean,
Right, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
if your kid wants the
the special
pencil,
whatever.
they can have a couple of them, not a whole pack.
But it's a required fee, right?
Correct.
So that even parents, so if you're able, if it's not a big deal to you, to just add in the $40, it's like whatever. And then your kid wants these special pencils, so you get them.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
so
so
too.
I would go, I think you should go up and then apologize, because now you have to maybe, I don't know, buy something fun for the school if there's leftover money. I don't know.
I think
If it can work
too,
that way.
that when we talk about supplies, I mean, I can speak to this from experience. Not only have I bought my supply list probably costs at least probably $95 to $100 at Target, at least for my kindergartner. Because I will tell you, when I left there, I thought, oh my gosh, we really need to look at this supply list, because this is overwhelming, But anyway, I have probably, on top of those supplies to support all the PDLs in kindergarten this year, have spent another probably $100 and sign up through your app of, we're doing this PBL, can you bring birdseed? We're doing this PBL, can you bring A, B, and C? We're doing this. So I would even think we could, and we didn't talk about this, but I like the idea that Dennis said that the younger grades we're providing devices to. The older grades, 8, 9 through 12, they're going to have to bring a device. So you could look at, there's going to be more supplies needed in younger grades versus the older grades. I mean, let's just be honest. Most older grades are not going to need all the other supplies associated with the younger grade. So you could look at a younger grade being 40 and an older grade being like 45 or 50. I mean, sorry,
So the other way, yeah.
$45 for the younger and maybe, you know, 35 for the older student or something. So that could be something we could look at because there definitely is a difference in the supply list. So that's something we didn't think about. So good. Thanks for your feedback on that as we continue to look at those options. And you know, one thing too that we talked about with parents is we're really trying to get away from all the traditional fundraisers, and so we're trying to funnel everything through the Elevate, which means that 100% of what the parents give goes to 100% to that campus. Whereas if we're selling chocolate candy, the school might get $2 of the $6 the cost of the candy. And so it's taking time to really build that mindset to parents of saying, we're not going to sell wrapping paper, we're not going to sell candy, we're not going to sell popcorn and cookie dough. If you will just give, you know, X number of dollars to our campaign, we get 100% of those proceeds. And so that's how we've been able to expand the playground in Longview that's currently in the process, and the one that's here in Tyler. So very excited about those opportunities and trying to funnel things through and make things a little smarter than, you know, making it so complicated. Any other campus updates, directors, anything y'all can think of specifically? I know we have a lot going on.
Our kiddos are going to be putting on the play. Our kiddos won the Interday Playwright competition, some of our students, and theirs was chosen, and so Longview Arts U is going to perform the play that they wrote. There's like 150, they're big celebrations. That's it.
Yes. That's deal.
Yeah.
That's great.
And get ready for graduation. I know that's a lot of things too. Our second graduating class and helping those students. We've had a lot of students accepted to some very top, you know, elite colleges. So I'm very proud of them already. And so it's very exciting time for us. Any other questions, concerns, comments? All right, I think that's
Well,
it.
it is 12:48. If we have a motion, we'll adjourn. No motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. I'm assuming you agree with that. So we're adjourned at 12:48. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.